This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV, it's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes.
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts Podcast, episode 308, talking about all the animation movie announcements at D23 2024. Welcome to the Animation Addicts Podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. My name is Chelsea Robson. And I'm Morgan Stradling. Morgan, we missed out this year. Apparently, there was some big hullabaloo happening in California that we were not able to make it. You know, this thing happens every 2 years, supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yes. And we are talking about the D23 Expo. This is Disney's huge, big fan event. They held it every 2 years, although I don't think they held one in 2020. Let's do a little mini history, because D23, it's a really, really big event. Disney saw the success of the San Diego Comic-Con and said, hey, why are we going to these other cons?
Why are we paying to be
and why are we
part
paying and making all of these big announcements and seeing how much money they were making? We have these crazy rabid fans. Why don't we just do that ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, a smart business move, but it's a double-edged sword for them, and we'll talk about that. But so they've done this. And the first D23 Expo, well, first off, there was the D23 fan club, which they started before this. And it was, 1923 was the year that Walt Disney started his company. And so it was to celebrate, the 23, like only the insiders would know that the company was started in 20, the significance of 23, right? And you pay this membership fee and you got a magazine, and D23, the fan club, started putting on these different expos. The main big one that you think of, and people just call it D23, but it's technically the D23 Expo. At least early on it was called that. And then they had this like mini event on the off years, which is the Destination D. And it's a smaller event. Sometimes it's in California, sometimes it's in Florida, a little bit more intimate, but still pretty big. So the first one started in 2009. It was called the Ultimate Disney Fan Experience. Then in 2011, it was the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. And then in 2013, they returned and they did it there. They did it again in 2015. They did it in 2017, 2019, and 2021. They didn't do a typical D23 then. It was still slightly post-pandemic, whatever. So they held another Destination D event. 2022, they did have one. And so we see that we've shifted because of the pandemic. We shifted from being on these odd years to now we're on the even years. So they did one in 2022. And then the newest one was in 2023. This was Iger's first D23 since he had retired in basically 2019. And so, he walks on stage and, did you miss me? And he actually got a decent applause. And I'm like, guys, you don't understand. This is the man who's ruining it all. So we've been to D23 a few times, but not this year. Ticket prices are crazy now. They've split it up where they're at the Delta Center, which is basically the hockey arena miles away, and then the Anaheim Convention Center, because they realized there's too much money to waste here, and people couldn't get into panels that they wanted and the big events. And so they bus you there, but they're very strict. You can't bring any of your merchandise. So if you bought anything on the show floor, too bad, so sad. You have to find a way to stash it, go back to a hotel, whatever. It sounds like an ultimate disaster to me. This just sounds, as a hardcore Disney fan, something that I absolutely want to avoid. There's virtual queues for things. I don't know why Disney thinks virtual queues are cool, and people, it's if I really want to go something, I should be able to stand in line and go to that thing. I should not I pay big money. Some of these tickets are over $1,000. I should not have to put it up to chance that maybe I'll get into the panel that I want. But let's talk about the ancillary things of D23 later.
Okay.
Let's talk about all of the announcements that happened at the big 2024 D23 Expo. So before we get into that, any quick thoughts, Chelsea?
Yeah, I just think that it might be best if we just take the next minute or so and just share all the negative vibes that everything that is going to follow. Because then I feel like I'll be able to look at all at face value without every time going oh my gosh.
There are some good things that I can see, even though there are good things that I will be saying. I'm not going to be a total negative Nancy.
But I feel a Debbie Downer coming on, and I want to get it out of my system because I don't like seeing or feeling that way myself. And so I have to say these things. I'm just going to go through and read a couple of my major things, and they could apply to almost all of these. I'm underwhelmed. Didn't we do this last time? Why are we here again? And I have no desire to see this. This just made me angry. What is going on? Okay, I've got all my negative things out, and now we can just look at each one and just be okay. I'm honest. All of those could apply to all of these. So anyway, okay.
Okay. So we are the Animation Addicts podcast. So we are going to be talking about animation specifically. However, because we're Disney fans as well, because animation is so tied into Disney, and we're going to be talking about some other ancillary things at the end that maybe aren't necessarily Disney, but or they are Disney, but are they even Disney anymore?
What is Disney?
They've veered so far off the path. Some other things that are live action, parks related, we'll talk about at the end. So with that, let's dive into it.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more, so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
I might mix around the order that they were announced at the actual event. I'm going to include, if I can find one. This wasn't live streamed. They were really weird about live streaming it this year. They had an exclusive for some of the panels and whatnot, or some of the main ones. You could do it through Fortnite because they had this big Fortnite partnership that recently was announced, and people were like, "What? Fortnite? Really?"
Yeah.
The D23 members are paying for this, and that's the best you can get.
Well,
at least if you're a paying paying D23 member at this point, which why are you doing that? There's no benefit. You should at least get, if you're not going to go pay extra money on top of that, at least be able to stream it, as part of your membership. But yeah, that's neither here nor there.
Well, I did see that they were doing at least the Legends. They were showing off all the Disney Legends. They had an event on on Disney Plus. And I feel like that really should have been the thing. Get a subscribership so you can watch some of these things as opposed to just not. Really should have done a lot more with Disney Plus or regarding this and actually made it a thing. Because if you're going to be turning Disney Plus basically into the Disney Channel, do it right. Make this something that people actually want to subscribe to. I just think they really missed out on an opportunity to get more subscribers and have people think that, okay, because I subscribe now to Disney Plus, I am now part of something bigger than just watching old stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into it, shall we? First up is Moana 2. Now, we have discussed Moana 2.
I see what you did there.
Yes, I was wondering if someone would catch that. Yes, so you can go back and you can watch, we had a Moana 2 episode. If you're interested, you can check that out. It's one of our recent ones that we did this year. So they have an actual trailer for this. And what are your thoughts, Chelsea?
It seemed really jumbled, and they brought back all the same hijinks that were in the first one. The little girl is very cute.
Well, you have to remember, this was a not so hidden secret that it was a Disney Plus TV series that they were, and it was this gang of misfits that were going to follow Moana around. They were going to do these adventures. It was kind of be like the villain of the week style, I imagine, where you go and defeat this bad guy over here. Maybe it was more of an episodic journey, sort of like Tangled the series. We're not quite sure.
Tangled the series did it right, though.
Yeah, and Tangled the series did have this ragtag gang of losers, if you will. They were all kind of like the bad guys from the Snuggly Duckling. And they followed around for a while, and then they drop them. They're really only there for one season, and then they move on, and then it's season 2. And I thought that was fine. I thought they did it really well. By the time those guys started getting old and stale, literally, I guess, as they're old. One of them's really old, the old guy.
Yeah.
Then they move on the story, and we learn about each one of them and their characters. And we sometimes have some character development that builds them up, but they moved on. So I kind of imagine this was in the same vein, although they obviously had a totally different, creative team behind it. But so we see that they have, these guys that are going to be coming with Moana. Everyone loves baby Moana. So remember baby Moana? Well, she has a baby sister now. And she looks so stinking cute. Her parents are really old. And yet, hey, they had another baby. It still works. Those coconuts are great for fertility. So, and because they don't want to give Moana a boyfriend, it's well, she's doing it for the family. She's doing it for the younger generation, her sister. She's got to save it for the sister. And, we call Maui back, and Maui decides to return. It's interesting. I want to know, I am interested in Maui and his, as a demigod, what he does.
Yeah.
What I was more interested in him. What were you doing this whole time? Where did you go? So he'll be back.
It's also interesting because now her adventure is part of the lore of her town. It's this is what we used to do, and then this happened. Well, now I am moving everything forward. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about.
I will say it is better looking,
and the animation looks fine. Yes, and this is being done in Canada at a different studio, technically. I feel like it looks like I would be watching the normal movie. So
yes, so whatever technology renders worlds, were either just
Money.
I don't know how often they like filter through these and update them, but it seems like they're using more or less the same stuff. It doesn't seem like they're pushing the boundary too much with this, which there's no reason to.
Right.
To really push the boundary of how these things look.
Yeah, Moana is still one of the biggest, if not the biggest, movie on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. It's constantly in the top of streams,
which I find
Disney.
Fascinating.
I know.
If you're looking at the whole entirety of Disney Plus, and Moana is up there on the top, like I have no bad feelings toward the first Moana. It's just a weird one. It's not the one that I would pick.
I don't know. You just have to remember like your childhood,
That's
the things
true.
that were really important to you when you were little. You gravitate and you stick to those. But I don't imagine people watching Disney Plus on repeat right now are the kids that were like, if you're a 3-year-old when this came out or a 4-year-old when it came out in 2016, you're 11 now. I mean, I imagine it's like the same age group. It's like kind of like the Toy Story thing where it's like ageless, like it fits this very particular demographic and they just love it no matter what.
Right.
Moana is the Disney version of that.
Okay. I can accept that.
Yeah. Anything else? I will say it's such a cash grab. It's so frustrating. I feel like it feels disjointed and that's concerning.
Well, they only had 6 months to put this entire thing together. And so they're like, what characters do we already have? We don't
no, or they had an overarching, it depends on how they did it. Because with Tangled the series, talking with Chris Sonnenberg, he had an overarching vision for this.
Okay.
The series, that it was going to be 3 seasons, and he very much knew the main beats and plot points of what was going to happen in each series. Same thing with J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. Right. She knew like it needed to be 7 books. These are the main things that were going to happen. These are the main plot points. And I think when you go into it with a vision like that, it's so much stronger. And for example, Lost supposedly had that, but then we learned they didn't really after like the first 2. And that's why the later seasons just went off the deep end because they had no vision leading and guiding them. Same thing with the Disney Star Wars sequels, the 7, 8, and 9. Terrible because there was no connecting vision about like what's the end game here? If I don't know what's happened in production with this, but if they said, hey, we're going to do 3 seasons of this, 2 seasons of this is where we're going to go, then they could take that and they could really condense it down to the most essential parts of that and turn it just into a movie. Cutting out all the like, oh, we're randomly going to stop in this town and over here and over that. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can cut that all out if you give a really strong vision and a really strong, like you could make Tangled the series as a movie. There's very key elements I could think of that are the most important to have.
Yes.
It's, Cassandra's betrayal and, the moonstone, the moon drop stuff. And you could make that happen quickly. If they had this overarching vision and they condense it down, I'm more optimistic. If it was just like, hey, here's a season, you have 8 episodes, like figure it out. Yeah. And then they shift and they have to make a movie. That's concerning.
I just hear Atlantis Milo's Return. When you watch that, you realize, no, they literally just put these 3 episodes together and made it.
Yeah. So is it going to be Milo's Return or is it going to be Tangled the series? That is to be seen.
We shall see.
Up next is Incredibles 3. I am shocked with this one. When they announced it, my jaw hit the floor for 2 reasons. One, this is Brad Bird's idea. Obviously Disney owns it now, but he wasn't a Pixar guy initially. He was a Simpsons guy. He went to Warner Brothers, did The Iron Giant, and then joined Pixar and had this idea and developed it there, right?
Yes.
And because it was his baby, he wasn't just going to release a sequel just because. He's always said, like, I don't think it needs a sequel, but if there's an idea that's really strong, then we will make a sequel. Mm-hmm. I feel that I did not like Incredibles 2 at all. Mm-hmm. I felt like eventually the pressure became so much for Brad Bird that he forced the idea to come rather than, because it's just the opposite of what happens in the first, but it's much weaker.
Yeah.
And then 2, Brad Bird's not at Pixar anymore. He's at Skydance Animation.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, who's directing this? This is going to be terrible. They're taking Brad Bird's... Brad Bird's coming back!
Is he just hard up for cash? Like, they just made him an offer he couldn't refuse? Like, I don't know.
I feel like that's Disney's thing right now. They are so desperate. Yeah. They're paying out the big bucks.
They went through their whole Rolodex of, the biggest movies they've had in the last decade, and that was Incredibles 2. I respect him, and I feel like he has had a great many movies. Incredibles 2 for me was basically fan fiction, but a role reversal. And it was just like, I don't like this at all. And then you mentioned in the document like that he's at Skydance and that he had another movie happening. And I was like, actually, I'm really intrigued on that one.
Yeah, he has this other movie coming out, which is called Ray Gun. And so you don't know about Skydance Animation. I think we're going to do, I've added this to the doc, Chelsea, so we will be doing this. Okay. Skydance Animation is the studio that John Lasseter eventually went to after he left Pixar. And he's actually brought a ton of Pixar people from, former Brain Trust people, directors, animators, tons of people have come over and, went with him to this. And we eventually got word that Brad Bird was coming and doing this. And he has a movie in production called Ray Gun. Now, initially when this was announced, I was like, that doesn't make sense because he's doing this Ray Gun movie. We haven't heard anything about it. And just as of, recently, the information is coming out that Ray Gun they're still in the middle of it. And it's going to come out in 2026. So it's happening. And he's going to somehow finish up what he's doing with Ray Gun and then come over for The Incredibles 3, which makes me think that Incredibles 3 is way down the line.
Yeah.
So
yeah. World of Real has an article about Ray Gun, and they said that Skydance was connected to Apple. And then Apple TV was like, no, you guys are too expensive. And said that specifically Ray Gun, because it was over $150 million, where they were like, nope, we're not doing that. And so they ended up getting bought out by Netflix. So Netflix is now the one that's going to be releasing that, which, goes into, I mean, the void of Netflix.
I know, that's my problem with when you have such a very specific model where it's just Netflix only, is it just gets lost. It doesn't have the wide appeal. We've talked about this many times, so I'm not going to rehash it, but no release date for Incredibles 3 currently. And I'm more excited for Ray Gun. I think we should see that. And so, the reason I mentioned Skydance is because they have a movie coming out. It's called Spellbound, October 18th. Now, they did have a movie called Luck, and I never saw it. I had the opportunity to, and I was like, I mean, I should have. Like, okay, what's Lasseter up to? So maybe we could add that to the list. We could do Luck, and then we could do Spellbound. And before we do that, we could just talk about Skydance in general, and where they're at and what's happened with them. And I think that'd be really fun leading up to Spellbound, because I think we need to give Spellbound its justice, its due, and see what's coming out of there. Is it a threat? Is it the next Pixar? Where are they? Is Lasseter able to basically, be this animation god? Is he able to touch, create gold by the touch of a finger?
No matter where he goes.
No matter where he goes, right? So I think that'll be interesting. So we're going to add that to the list. So Incredibles 3, I think this is so far out because of what he's doing right now. He might just be in the story phase right now. Like, hey, they could have inked the papers last week, and now he has a year to come up with a story.
They inked it last week, like yesterday.
Oh, for sure.
Can we get one more big gun? Come on.
This is the problem with D23 that I want to do, like, if I ever get my act together, I want to do like a long form, maybe this already exists on YouTube, I don't know, like a long form video talking about Disney has a D23 problem. And the D23 problem is they've created this con for themselves. Con maybe has a double entendre there. They've created this convention where they have to fill content. They have to fill the space for this 3-day weekend that they've created, right? Yeah. They're selling tickets, they're selling merch. Now, when you're on the show floor, it's actually pretty cool. You're able to go and look. They have different exhibits from the archives. They have this big like merch area with like exclusive merch to D23. Although I'm really mad at the Destination D that I went to. The shirt that I wanted sold out before I even got there.
That was still a sad day.
Still bitter. Yes, I want it, but that's for another day. But then they have to fill all these panels. That's easy because they can get like Disney animators. Like, for example, they had Brittany Lee and Lorelei Bove to talk about costuming in animation. And so they had a big panel talking about, costuming in animation and doing it for Disney. And they've done so much for Frozen and other works where they're just really talented at what they do. You could easily fill these like mini panels.
Right.
But then they've set the problem they've set for themselves is that they have these bigger panels. Now, it used to be back in the day, they had the Pixar panel, like, big feature thing where it was only the Pixar. Was it? It was like Pixar, and then it was like Disney, or maybe they combined Disney and Pixar, but now it's just the entertainment. Have you noticed that? They did Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, some TV, like it was all big one. And that's the problem they've created for themselves, is that they have to like have so much content to announce at these big things every 2 years that I think they've dug themselves into a little hole. Because if they're in a bad period like they are now, they feel inclined to announce things that are half-baked, not ready, still in ideation, like spaghetti on the wall. And like there was a Mary Poppins years ago, I think in 2019, there was a Mary Poppins ride that they announced. There is no Mary Poppins ride. That just floated away with Mary Poppins' umbrella. It's in the clouds sitting up there putting on makeup with her and her little compact, batting her nose.
Right.
So it's like, that's the problem, is that we should do like a score tracker of what
these things
actually
happen
versus what actually happens. Like give it 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Or 10 at this point. I don't know. So, so many of these things that are announced, it's like, okay, especially on the park side, but that's the D23 problem, is that instead of just having a handful of really great things that they can focus on and announce like they would have done at a Comic-Con, they just have to pad it with fluff that may or may not happen.
Yeah, I understand business-wise why you would want to, you're wanting to sell your own stuff and have a bigger cut of the pie, and I get it. I would also like to get a bigger cut of whatever pie I'm going to eat, because that's my pie. However, this is why, these smaller studios go to Comic-Con, because now they have a thing, and now they know how to do all that they can for their thing right now. And we didn't mention that Marvel even announced that they were going to go back to RDJ for Doctor Doom at like last week at Comic-Con.
That was announced at Comic-Con, surprisingly.
Yes.
I'm surprised they did that there and didn't hold it till D23. But clearly they needed so much promotion and positivity for the Marvel brand.
It was before the earnings call.
They needed to pluck something out, and it was one thing, which is what you used to do back in the day, and they put it in that one venue, and it got so much press and attention because it just wasn't smothered with all this other fluff and junk.
Right. Yeah, and Marvel needs a really big get for their everything. It would have been smothered in this. Once again, it is true that it was also like right before the earnings call. And so they were just like, we need to really pad this because our stock is way down. There's all these auxiliary reasons why they do certain things. But when it comes down to the con problem, I think it's true. But I also think, would it behoove them to do it once every 4 years instead of every 2 years because of this? But then they're like, but money. So
yeah,
I mean, there you go.
All right, there we go. Incredibles 3, we'll see whenever it happens. Pixar has an interesting slate right now. We're gonna stay at Pixar, and we are talking about Toy Story 5. Now, we knew Toy Story 5 had been announced. This is one of those before the earning call. We're gonna throw a few things out there, like, oh, we're doing this, to try to trick the investors. If I were a Disney investor, which I'm not, I would be so pissed at what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's all fluff, smoke and mirrors. I just don't understand how the investors are still falling for it. Now, the stock price is at some of the lowest points in 5 years. So clearly, and we know a lot of big stockholders are, Perlmutter, Peltz, they have liquidated. But the idea is that they're probably going to get back in if it gets in the 60s and then do another hostile takeover attempt, with a bigger coalition, potentially with Elon Musk. So that's something to pay attention to early next year because people still aren't happy with the direction of Disney. But yeah, if I were just like a normal individual stockholder, I'd be like, why are you doing this? But anyway, so Toy Story 5. And I was never on board with this.
Are like institutionalized as stockholders because it's like their parents bought it.
Yeah.
And so it's like they feel this need to continue, like, I hold this stock, dang it. I'm like, oh man.
So, Toy Story 5, like, you hear it and you just groan because Toy Story 4 was horrible. But then you hear, oh, Andrew Stanton is returning to write and direct. And Andrew Stanton, we know from Finding Nemo. He did Wall-E. He did John Carter, which really was kind of the coffin in his career. He went off and did this big budget live action fantasy sci-fi film, and it totally failed and flopped. And he kind of just was never able to really recover. Okay. Yeah. So the last thing, he did come back after John Carter and do Finding Dory. Obviously, that was his thing. And now he's coming back and doing Toy Story 5. So, you know, and he was one of the guys that never truly left Pixar. He didn't immediately go over. He had a lot of things that he was working on creatively. You know, he's the Brain Trust, which has been renamed as the Pixar Senior Creative Team. Like, that just epitomizes Iger to me. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
Iger, well, the Walt Disney Company needs a creative at its head. And I'm talking head CEO role. Like, you need someone with a creative bone in your body to, at least, or multiple bones, because this is a creative company at its core.
Yeah.
And Iger is a TV newsman. He is a weatherman. Like, if you go back and you look at where he started, his idea of being creative as a CEO is like, how many things can I acquire? Mm-hmm. How many big fish can I capture? Versus like, what can I create and do on my own? Because he's not. Like,
right.
If you either are a creative person or you're not. And I really think that's why Lasseter should have been his successor. And he felt very, not intimidated, but he felt threatened by Lasseter, I feel, for some reason or another. This is just my personal opinion.
Right.
As is it all. But
all of this is
Lasseter would have got it, I feel like. He would have got, you know, you could have had the like chief financial officer and the other people to really like keep the more businessy side, but like the creative, you needed it. So anyways, so this Pixar Senior Creative Team is just like lame. Look what you did to the Pixar Brain Trust, and it's now called that. That epitomizes Disney to me and Pixar nowadays. So he's coming back. So that is good. That is actually really good, because we need someone who's good.
Uh-huh.
And he has the chops to do it. So how can you, and now it's like, oh, the Toy Story gang is back, and they're having to fight against technology. So the image that they show is this kid under a blanket, and he has an iPad, and the Toy Story toys are like, what? We've been replaced? What? How do we, you know, so it's going to be like, how do they overcome the iPad? And
you don't. The parent has to take it away.
You just never give them the iPad in the first place. That's what it. But you know, at the end, it's gonna like they're gonna somehow, you know, the kid's gonna realize the toys are better. There's gonna be this shot of like it's just from like the knees or like the waist down, holding the iPad, and he's gonna drop the iPad and run to the toys, and you're gonna see the iPad drop to the ground, and like, oh wow, we overcame. I don't know. That's just how I envision the end of this movie going.
And I just envisioned it as like, meh, iPad's better. And it's all for naught.
So, and people are like, wait, how's Woody going to come back? And you know what? They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Okay. This can either be set earlier in time. You know, it's going to be more of like a Toy Story 2.5 situation. Or it's, hey, Bo Peep and him like catch a bus and hey, stop at his house. Like nothing's off limits at this point, whatever. So I'm not concerned about that. But Toy Story 4 is the worst. Okay, really next up. Speaking of 4s, we have Frozen 3 and 4. So they announced this as a 2-part movie. There's going to be a part 1 and part 2. So I don't know if they're going to do the lame Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Oh, gosh.
Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So I don't know if they're going to do Frozen 3 Part 1 and Frozen 3 Part 2. That's like terrible branding, and I hope they don't do that. They've stuck with the 1 and 2. They just need to call this 3 and 4 and be done with it. So they have this picture that they released, and it's very reminiscent of Sleeping Beauty with like the very tall, over-exaggerated trees. Ivan Earl, you know, he is famous for his backgrounds.
It looks beautiful.
It looks really pretty, and I like
the
it.
Concept
so Elsa riding
exactly
her
like
knock.
Snow White. Or I'm sorry, Sleeping Beauty, which I love that. So,
and then we have this mysterious, you know, guy wearing a spiked helmet in the reflection of the water as they are going off to. It looks like some castle in the sky now. So before we had the ice, like the secondary. I don't watch Frozen too much, but now we have something else in the sky to go to. Woohoo, cloud people. Hey, they didn't do it in James and the Giant Peach, but they'll do it here. So yeah, I'm just sitting here, and I like Anna on a normal horse. That's cool. There's Olaf. Remember him? Of course. We always have to, like, he's her new sidekick. No Kristoff, which might be a good thing.
Yeah.
Kristoff's like, okay, so but this is one photo. We have no idea who the characters are, but there's some mysterious guy with a spear. Looks like he's following them. Oh. But it's pretty. It's the contrast between Elsa and she's almost translucent and transparent with Anna on her normal, like, set in reality world. It's nice. So
yeah, it's gorgeous. The whole picture just looks fabulous. Like, I really like that.
It's very, it really piques your curiosity.
Yeah.
But then when you have to multiply that by however many frames and create a movie out of it, it's maybe a little different. So again, just because of Disney's track record, I don't have high hopes.
Right. But, you know.
I hope they do well. There we go.
All right. We wish you well.
Zootopia 2
was
again announced.
This is what I'm like, why? Oh, okay. But anyway.
Yeah, I never had the affinity for Zootopia that some people do. I've watched it a few times. I think it's fine, but meh.
All right.
This is Disney now. Disney is, we've created an IP. It was successful at first run, and we're going to milk it. This is all we have. Because the parks are so based on IP now, and we'll talk about that maybe at the end if we have some time. Elio. Now, this is back to Pixar. Elio. Initially, this was supposed to come out this summer in 2024. We had an actual trailer for it, and apparently Iger came back and he was not a fan of this, and so it's been pushed back to next year, June 13th, 2025. This is an original concept. The idea of this is kind of weird. I don't necessarily love it. There was a little sneak peek shown at D23, and I'll play this for you. Can you hear this, Chelsea?
Yes. Okay, we're looking at the stars place, the final frontier. We're backing away. All right, moving on to other base-like things, and then Elio.
Like,
okay,
it's so uninspiring. Oh, a plushie has appeared. Future plushie, I said. He has multiplied and created.
Testing. Can you understand me now? Greetings, citizens of D23. A curious name for a world summit. My name is a liquid supercomputer from far across the universe. I have been sent here to scan the Pond.
Well, there you go.
And that was the end of the little sneak peek. But I'm not. What's new about this? What's exciting? What's Pixar about this?
I mean, it feels like they're just trying to do WALL-E.
It feels like Eve. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it felt like Eve, and so I'm like, okay, well, we'll see how.
There were new voice cast announced. I feel like there was a big shakeup with this movie, and they added characters. Zoe Saldana and other people were announced, and I still don't have any. Wow, I need to see that.
Right.
You know, that used to be the Pixar. There'd be some sort of hook that really got you and piqued your interest. And this is like, okay, a space thing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say at least it's new. So yay. New
property. Hoppers. This is a Pixar original. It's about a girl essentially who turns into a beaver. Just announced at D23, Disney and Pixar's newest original film, Hopper, stars John Hamm, Bobby Moynihan, and Piper Curda, is coming to theaters spring 2026. So this will be coming about 9 months after Elio comes out.
I mean, I'm going to hold my judgment because I at least have some hope for Pixar after Inside Out 2. So I'm just going to hope that is not misplaced. So cool. Hoppers.
The beaver looks really fluffy. Kind of looks like your stuffed animal after it's been through the wash a few times. Like when you first buy it, you're like, this is the most tender, softest for my precious baby. And then when the child's 3 years old, you're like, this is the nappiest, grossest thing I've ever experienced. Why? What happened to the fluff? That's what this beaver looks like. And I can appreciate that.
Like I said, I'm going to hold judgment. I feel like I hope that I have high hope. I have the highest hopes that I can have, which isn't much.
Speaking of high hopes, high hopes. Oh, wait, no, we don't have that for this movie. So we are moving away from animation. This is Animation Tangent. related, if you shall say that. Snow White. This is the live action based on the animated classic, the first of Disney's animated films. Yeah. So
Can I
Snow White.
just say the comments on all posts concerning this have just been gold, like truly gold. I will say, I was actually thinking that good things when they had a picture of the dwarfs going across the log. It was like, oh, that looks fun. Okay. But then I heard her sing, and it's just not the same vibe. And it is very musical theater, which I have nothing against musical theater. It's just not Snow White. Like, when I think of the original Snow White, I think much like less musical theater, just more natural sounding voice. If it were me doing the singing, I would really tone back on all of the musical theater and all of the I've got chutzpah, or even voice that was more natural, more smooth, less trying, and just more of a voice that brings you in as opposed to shows you what she's got.
Yeah. And we know this is a totally different take on Snow White.
The
original Snow White is very innocent as a dove, and giving, and just has a heart of gold. And I don't get that vibe from this Snow White. Obviously, this is for modern audiences. It's a modern Snow White. She's not going to be saved by a prince. This is the problem we haven't really talked about this, but this is a very, very troubled production.
Yes.
And part of it was because of Rachel Zegler, foot in mouth. She said some stupid things about the movie, saying, like, I never even watched the original. I hated it. It wasn't good. I thought it was cringe. The prince, rescuing her, we're not going to have that. This princess is going to rescue herself. And they actually came up probably, 9 months later after she had said them on the red carpet. And then it really surfaced again and created a big hullabaloo online. People were really, offended that you would not respect the work which you're trying to recreate, pay homage to.
Yeah.
Yes. There was no honor at all. That's the problem with modern Disney. It's all about tearing down, in my opinion. We got to tear down what was done and recreate instead of building upon or building something new or respecting tradition. Right. And it got in a lot of hot water. And then there was a leaked image of what the dwarfs were. They were 7 magical creatures. They were no longer dwarfs.
Yeah.
And they were all different heights. They were men and they were women, and people lambasted this online, and people thought, lambasted, and people said, and then Disney was like, no, it's just a leaked that's a fake image. Those are stand-ins.
Right.
Turns out it wasn't. And then the reason they did that is they had dwarfs cast initially, or they were going to do that, but Peter Dinklage, who's one of the most famous little people all around, he's known in Game of Thrones as Tyrion Lancaster. And he basically went off before this came out, saying it was so offensive to have a movie about dwarfs, and why would we do this? And so Disney, being the shameful cowards that they are, said, oh, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to do 7 magical creatures. And then when they got so much backlash, they went back and they turned it to dwarfs. But instead of casting actual little people,
they go CGI.
They do CGI dwarfs that are horrible looking. It's really offensive.
It's
so many different things have happened. They've already blown $300+ million into this movie with having to rewrite it and reshoot it again, because all these 7 people that they cast, they had to cut them out and redo scenes, and woof.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. Well,
why don't they just put this in the can and pretend it never existed, like Warner Brothers did with Batgirl?
Take the loss, man. The other thing that's going around is it's like, who's the fairest one of all? Like Gal Gadot in the mirror asking who's the fairest one.
And she has these beautiful lashes. She's stunning.
Gal Gadot in general is just stunning. She's unearthly stunning. There's no competition by anybody, and I'm fine saying that. I also believe that every person has their own beautiful, and it's just there's some that are that kind of stunning that it's just wow, okay, cool, good for you, and I appreciate her for that. I'm glad that you get to be that person, because I like to see those kind of people. And what is going to happen as part of the story? They're doing the double entendre. Instead of being fair as in beautiful, it's fair as in equity, because we know that's what they do now. And this was actually in some different notes that were leaked. And so will that continue to be the storyline? I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
So We shall see.
I'm not excited for this. Like, I really hoped they were going to can it, and here it is at D23. So, whoop, doggy. Okay, so speaking of not dogs, but cats, we have Mufasa the Lion King, which is the prequel to the live action Lion King. Now, I'm going to say, I am not falling into Disney's trap. The 2019 Lion King is actually the highest grossing animated film of all time. And Disney, because they are lame and they're trying to convince you that it's not an animated film, it's a live action film because it has more realistic lions, that they don't count that as their highest grossing animated film. They're counting Inside Out 2 as that. But I don't play that game. It's an animated film.
My gosh.
This is an animated film.
Poorly at best.
And it's terrible. The concept of it is that Mufasa was actually a stray lion and he was adopted in. Scar was the one who said, yeah, we should keep him. And then through some turn of events, we'll find out that how Mufasa ends up being the king. And I think this is just such a slap in the face to the original film, to Mufasa and his character, that it was all about this lineage of kings in a very traditional sense. And they're having to flip it on its head and say, no, this is the message they want to send. Fine. Like, no, it's not about your birth. It's not about your bloodline and you know, who you came from and your ancestors. It's just about you. But I don't, again,
which is
it's
a very meritocracy point of view.
It's a very individualistic. It's like what came before me does not matter. But in reality, your family, your history, everything does matter because it is your DNA. It is what lived and built you. Yes, you can change your path from there. You can break cycles of violence. You can break, you know, the reason I say that is because there's a new movie out called It Ends With Us that's about that.
Right.
And you can end these things that in your past and your family's line that were negative and bad, and you could change it from there. And I don't know why they're doing this. I think the veil has been lifted for a lot of the normies on Mufasa or on the Lion King in general. I think so many people saw it because up until that point, majority of the live action remakes had been decent enough, and there weren't too many of them, that people just saw this in droves and they loved it. But then I have never talked to anyone since who says they have watched this again. This, I think, is ill-advised. It was whenever this was, you know, greenlit, it was running off those fumes, and they are fumes at this point. And if you look at the comments on the Facebook page for this, and I always say this, like, you can get a pulse of like where majority of people, not the super fans, not people like us, right? By going to the Facebook page, not the Instagram, not the Twitter, the Facebook page, and reading the comments. And all of the comments, I'd say 95% of them are like, what is this? Why are you doing this, Mufasa? This looks terrible. Why didn't you do this why couldn't we have had this in 2D? Why couldn't we have done this for the original film? People aren't happy about this.
Right.
And so the tide has turned. This is coming out during the Christmas season, which is a really big movie time. It's not going to do well. I am staking in the ground that this is not going to break $1 billion.
Well, I hope you're correct.
Thank you. Okay, we have just a few more. We're going to go kind of rapid fire through these. We have Lilo and Stitch, the live action. We didn't get much. We kind of just got a little teaser of the live action, you know, the CGI version of Stitch busting through the logo. He looks like Stitch. He looks good. They didn't give him the Sonic V1 treatment.
Right.
He looks good. And
he
this
does,
movie,
yeah.
I think you can do this movie pretty well because the characters are, you know, human characters.
In this world and
in this, I'm not so concerned with Lilo and Stitch. I'm concerned that they're doing yet again another dumb live action remake. I think was this originally going to be it was supposed to be a Disney Plus original, but Disney's new strategy to fake prove to the investors that Disney Plus is profitable is that all of these movies that were initially scheduled for Disney Plus, they've removed them from the Disney Plus slate and they're moving them to theaters. So that way it's off the ledger of Disney Plus. You have like millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that are now being removed from the Disney Plus ledger and put onto the theatrical ledger.
Right.
Which, hey, that's a better strategy because they'll actually make money. They'll actually be able to at least make a portion of the budget back, or hopefully more, you know, budget plus some. I'm, of all of them, I'm kind of meh plus on this.
Yeah.
Meh plus. Okay.
Okay. Then we have Win or Lose, Pixar's Disney Plus TV series.
So they still have this one. They're still keeping this on Disney Plus. This is Pixar's first move into TV or like a traditional television series.
The animation style to me kind of looks like a little bit of Peanuts style.
It's about a baseball team, as they're going through their season. Again, it's more of that Peanuts, bean mouth look.
Yeah.
I think initially the way that they were going to do this is each episode is from a different character's point of view. And I think I read that each was going to be a different animation style, but I haven't had a chance to look that up to see if that's true. But we definitely know at one point it was different views. So like, the first baseman's point of view, second baseman, third, the pitcher, the coach, whatever. I will see what this is. It seems like Pixar could be used for better things, right now, especially that times are tough and Disney Plus should not be a focus.
Yeah.
But there we are. So then we have Dream Productions. Basically, Dream Productions is inside Riley's mind in the world of Inside Out. It's where her dreams are created. It's this like movie studio. And it basically says, this is from the news article, which will include below. Pixar continues its foray into TV with Dream Productions, an Inside Out spinoff about the dream factory inside Riley's head. Toy Story used to have these shorts, Toy Story tunes, and my kids love them. They're about 8 minutes long. They're so fun. One of my favorite ones is where they go to the chicken restaurant and there's a Happy Meal version of Buzz. And he gets taken home on accident and the real Buzz gets stuck in the ball pit. It's really funny, but it's not enough to flesh out into a whole movie.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the TV stuff has a place, and it's something that at least they're working. At least, you have a place for some of these newer artists or newer creatives to kind of come up and have a place to kind of to practice the skills of being that person, and then they do something with it. Okay, it goes over here. So it's part of the system of just keeping everybody higher up. So I don't really have the same amount of animosity toward TV stuff as I do from like the actual theater stuff. Like, really? Okay.
It just seems like we needed a Pixar Toon Studios to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
which they had. They did have they had a Canadian unit,
Uh-huh. And it may end up moving there in the end anyway. So there you go.
All right. I said we were going to talk about the Disney park stuff, but I think we're going to leave it at that. If we want to talk about Disney parks and how they're absolutely destroying the parks, we could do that as a separate part 2 episode.
I'd like to have somebody who's at the parks be able to have
park expert.
Yeah. Who actually knows more than, somebody who like me only goes every couple years.
Okay. Well, we could reach out and see who could join us for that. It'd be fun to talk about because there is this emphasis on IP, which is obviously what all of this is. Like all of this that they have been doing is to reinforce these IP-driven decisions that they are doing in the parks. And I have so much to say, but I'm going to hold it off. We're going to do that as a separate episode. And we asked our patrons what they thought about this. And Josella says, I'm cautiously excited and optimistic for Tron Ares. We'll be watching that in theaters. Looking forward to Zootopia 2. Lilo Stitch live action. Need a full trailer before making an opinion on it. So there we go. Jonathan has quite a few thoughts. He has his own channel. I don't have too many opinions yet on the sequels where there was just art release, but I feel like I need a trailer, at least more info, so I can decide whether or not there'll be a desperate cash grab or not. I believe all sequels are desperate cash grabs.
At this point, yes.
That's Morgan's opinion, it's not his. But the fact that they so far seem to be retaining some of the original talent, like writers, directors, etc., does make me more optimistic that they will at least be decent. The trailer for Moana 2 finally got me cautiously optimistic for it. I was not very excited before, given that this is essentially a TV show turned into a movie. It seems that none of the original talent behind the camera have been there. But, he said metaphorically speaking, but the trailer did actually look fun. I will reserve more judgment until after the film. I think that was ours as well. It's like, okay, we have slightly better view of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Pixar's Win and Lose looks amazing. I didn't care much for it when it was first announced. I'm not a huge sports guy, but I loved it when I saw the trailer. I'm very much looking forward to the show now. Live action stuff. Snow White looks way better than expected. I'm definitely not hyped for it or anything. Mufasa looks slightly more expressive than the first one, which we did hear that they have amped up the facial expressions because that was a big criticism of the original. There were like random artists on Twitter that were like, hey, I can fix this. And then they had like a huge thread of like fixing all the facial just to like allow them to emote more. And so I think that really, shoved Disney's face in it. Like, But the stories shown in the trailer seem bizarre. I have a feeling it won't go over well with the super fans of the original. Not that the first one did either, meaning the 2019. I have to give them credit for differentiating this franchise from the original. We'll see if it's good or not. I personally can't be bothered to care. Agreed. Lilo and Stitch, I'm only looking forward to it because the director, Dean Fleischer Camp, is amazing. And if someone can turn a live action remake into something special, he can. That doesn't mean he will, but he definitely has the talent if the studio doesn't get in his way. After speaking of Dean Fleischer Camp, you guys should definitely do Marcel the Shell with shoes on for the podcast. And this is something we didn't talk about, but Skeleton Crew I'm most hyped for, especially the trailer. Looks like an 80s style kids adventure movie set in the Star Wars universe, and it looks nothing like they've ever done. The style looks like sci-fi suburbia, and I love the vibe. I love Star Wars regardless, but I'm excited to see something completely different than what they have been doing recently. Thank you, Jonathan Norris. We love you. And Lauren Rodriguez says, I'm so excited for Moana 2. The new trailer looked awesome storyline-wise. I love her bond with the little sister. I also love the new song that was previewed at D23. I listened to it on YouTube. I'm so excited for the soundtrack to be released. So that's something we didn't talk about, is there was a new song debuted. And so that got the crowd hyped. But there's so much to talk about. We had to kind of bring it in to this small little episode. And that's where you come in. Let us know your thoughts about all of these announcements at D23. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you like it? What are you most looking forward to? What are you least looking forward to? We are excited to hear from you guys. Go to rotoscopers.com/voicemails. Give us a call at 406-646-6575 or record a voice note and email it to us at contact@rotoscopers.com. We will collect all of those and put them into a voicemail segment, recapping your thoughts on D23. Maybe when we do this parks part 2 D23 episode.
Yeah. And also, if you're angry at us for poo-pooing any of these, please tell us why. We would love to have a reason to celebrate.
Exactly. That's, just reading the comments from the patrons. We have one opinion and there are other opinions out there. And it's interesting to see people's thoughts and what they're looking forward to, what they're not looking forward to, and why, and how that differs. And that's what makes us all great. We can all have opinions. We can all very calmly talk about it, have a good discussion, and leave friends in the end. So that's all we have today. There's always more to talk about, but for today, that's where we're going to put a cap in it. Until next time, we are the Rotoscopers.
And I'm back. You there?
Am I there?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Were you talking to me?
Yeah, I just said hi.
I was rewatching stupid Snow White trailer. Great times.
Great time.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Eating my hard-boiled egg.
Oh, nice. Nice choice.
And then that's my everyday thing. I eat 2 hard-boiled eggs and a shake. Like a 30-gram protein shake.
I appreciate that.
I begin my day with a diluted shot of apple cider vinegar.
Also
followed by a tea blend that I do. A few different teas. And yeah, so look at me.
I see you. I like it.
Okay, hold on. I'll finish this. It's hard to choke down an egg.
Yes.
You just have to let it happen at its own pace.
Yeah. So egg makes me very tired. Which is this weird thing. It's like, oh, it's a breakfast food. It's to wake you up. And I'm like, no, actually, if you want me to go to bed, give me not even just a hard-boiled egg, but just anything egg. Like eggs and anything is just kind of like, I need to go to bed. Like within 30 minutes.
That's the oddest thing I've ever heard.
Within 30 minutes, I'm like, I am so tired. I need to go to bed. And I always take a 2 to 3 hour nap after. It just wipes me out.
I can't skip this commercial. There's no skip.
Just turn off the audio.
But normally you can skip after 5 seconds.
Yes.
I appreciate this ad, but...
Do you want me to do it? I pay for premium.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.